Hey there YouTube, Wrestling Optimus here, back with another action figure review. It's the end of another wrestling week, which means it's time for Friday Night Smackdown on Fox. As always, if you're new here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for plenty more pro wrestling and action figure content. For now, we're headed into the Thunderdome. So for a review and some fantasy booking, let's take it over to the action figures. This week, SmackDown opens with the dirt sheet starring Miz and Morrison. They say tonight they're going to expose all of WWE's biggest secrets. But first, Miz wants to talk about the departure of Mandy Rose to Raw, which apparently he had something to do with. He shows the clip of him breaking the news on Talking Smack and says, despite the rumors, he didn't use his pull backstage to do this as revenge. Instead, as a former Mr. Money in the Bank, he's simply trying to help relieve some of the pressure on the current Mr. Money in the Bank, Otis. With Mandy gone, now he can focus on cashing in. And sure, Otis might feel bad now, but he'll get over it, just like Mandy already has over on Raw. Wink wink. This brings out Otis, who single-handedly clears the ring of both wannabe hosts. Tucker appears from the crowd and tosses Miz back in, where Otis delivers a caterpillar and a Vader bomb. But that's not enough. He strips Miz down to his tighty-whities and throws him out to the floor. Miz runs away trying to cover himself, despite the fact that he's essentially wearing his normal ring attire. As I explained when I unboxed my new Tucker figure, I actually ordered an Otis, and that's what they sent me. So for now, I'm still on the hunt for an Otis. I think I saw online that there's a John Morrison in the latest line of Elites. If so, I'll definitely try to grab him too. Otherwise, I'm not going out of my way to add him to the collection anytime soon. After a commercial, Kayla Braxton questions Miz and Morrison backstage. Miz says not to worry, this was all part of his plan. He calls someone an ass. Did you see it? Was it enough? Very interesting. Morrison pretends to understand and they slink off. Lucha House Party have been acting weird on social media. Kalisto posted a rather vain picture of himself in a Speedo and the fedora he's wearing tonight. Meanwhile, Lince Dorado posted a maskless picture, seen here, with the simple caption, "Goodbye." Before the next match, we see these two argue about who should coach Gran Metalik tonight. Are they teasing yet another tag team breakup? It's weird, while AEW builds more factions, WWE keeps destroying theirs. Regardless, some combination of Lucha House Party will take on Cesaro and Shinsuke at Clash of Champions for the tag team titles. All of Lucha House Party come out together to support Gran Metalik. Cesaro is accompanied by his partner Nakamura. Metalik gets the upper hand early but is confused by conflicting advice from Kalisto and Lince. Cesaro takes advantage. The bickering continues every time Metalik tries to make a comeback. Eventually, the ref gets fed up and kicks them both out. It doesn't help though as Cesaro hits the neutralizer and gets the win. Kayla has Jey Uso backstage. She asks how Roman's actions last week, abandoning his cousin in their tag team match, will affect their chemistry this week. He says Paul Heyman told him it was all a miscommunication, and Roman's still family so he trusts him. He'll worry about Clash of Champions later. Right now, it's lockdown at the Uso Penitentiary. We get a pre-taped promo from Matt Riddle. He claims that bro is a universal language that can convey any emotion or thought. He proceeds to demonstrate in a segment called Know Your Bro, where he shows off his acting chops, or lack thereof. It's time for a special edition of A Moment of Bliss with guest Nikki Cross. Despite almost costing Nikki the match last week by giving her a sister Abigail, Alexa introduces Cross as her best friend and doesn't bring it up. They exchange pleasantries. Alexa asks about Nikki's strategy for Clash of Champions, pointing out that Nikki lost the last few times she's taken on Bayley. Nikki points out that Sasha isn't in Bayley's corner anymore, so she can actually focus this time. With that out of the way, Nikki addresses the elephant in the room and asks what's going on with Alexa lately. Why, of all moves, did she use Sister Abigail? Alexa says she can't explain it because she doesn't really understand it herself. She's going through some kind of change. Lacey Evans' music interrupts. She mocks Alexa and tells Nikki she's too nice and doesn't have a backbone. That's why she'll never beat Bayley. Nikki shows just how nice she is by blowing her nose in Lacey's handkerchief and throwing it in her face. That leads to their scheduled match, but the story isn't in the ring, it's on commentary, where Michael Cole prods Alexa about her alleged change and how she's treated Nikki lately. She deflects. Corey offends her by making comparisons to Lacey Evans. Back to the action, at one point, Lacey gets a bottle of hand sanitizer and sprays it all over Nikki's face. Apparently this doesn't qualify as a DQ. Luckily, it does fire up Cross, and she hits the draping spinning neckbreaker to pick up the victory. Defeated, Lacey crawls over to the commentary desk and screams at Alexa, "What are you gonna do, get the Fiend?" This sends Bliss into her trance. She slowly walks to the front of the table and delivers a Sister Abigail to Lacey in a scene eerily reminiscent of last week, then walks off. Yes, turn Alexa Bliss into Sister Abigail. I don't care how little sense it makes or if it contradicts other parts of Bray Wyatt's lore. I just want to see her and the Fiend together. Please, we need this in 2020. Up next is an expertly produced video package narrated by Paul Heyman that mentions the many storied bloodlines in pro wrestling. The Flairs, the Harts, the Hennigs, and the Ortons. But none are greater than the Anoa'i family. Our current tribal chief and universal champion, Roman Reigns, comes from that long line of royalty. Heyman recounts the family tree, highlighting all the key members who have made their mark in WWE, including Rikishi, the father of Reigns' opponent at Clash of Champions, Jey Uso. From the day Roman inherited the family's legacy, he's made them proud with victory after championship victory. Heyman sneaks in a not-so-subtle jab saying that meanwhile, Jey has been a respectable tag team wrestler, but only with the help of his brother. They go into Clash of Champions as family, but make no mistake, Roman is the ruler of this tribe. I really need to work on finding some good Uso figures now that they're back on TV and getting involved in important storylines. Commentary interviews Sasha Banks remotely. They recap what Bayley said last week about using her and Sasha being worthless now. Banks still can't believe it. She's sitting in the Performance Center where her and Bayley built the women's division together. Their legacy and accomplishments still line the walls here. Through tears, she says that Bayley is naive and nothing without Sasha Banks. One day, she's going to take Bayley's title. Out of nowhere, Bayley smashes a steel chair over Sasha's back and sets it up on her neck again. However, she's stopped by officials before she can do more damage. It's weird, although I'm somewhat invested in both women's stories, Bayley and Sasha and Alexa and Nikki, the match at Clash of Champions isn't between either of them. It's between Bayley and Nikki. Either WWE sucks at storytelling per usual, or we're getting tons of interference in the SmackDown Women's title match. Next, the supposedly uncrowned Intercontinental Champion AJ Styles takes on the real Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn. Once again, Greg Hamilton fails to introduce Sami correctly. While Zayn attempts to correct him, Styles attacks from behind, giving him control early on. After a commercial, shockingly, the Blue Thunder Bomb can't put Styles away. Sami misses the Helluva Kick but turns it into a roll-up. However, the ref notices him grabbing AJ's tights and stops the count. In the ensuing argument, AJ rolls up Sami, also grabbing the tights, but the ref doesn't notice this time and counts the pin. Of course, the match was non-title, so Sami Zayn tells Greg Hamilton to announce that he's still the Intercontinental Champion, until Jeff Hardy runs out, levels AJ Styles, and throws Sami around ringside. Jeff finds a ladder and nails both men with it. Then, he gets on the mic and says he's tired of being called a fraud. At Clash of Champions, he's challenging AJ and Sami to a triple threat ladder match to determine the legitimate champion. Okay, this fantasy booking is a little out of left field, but hear me out. I noticed that AJ Styles has been the WWE, IC, and US champion. That means he's only a tag title away from being a Grand Slam champion. But who should his partner be? Well, I propose he teams up with Samoa Joe and they call themselves the Originals. It would be a nice callback to their TNA days. If you want to get real cheeky, turn it into a faction with Robert Roode. Unfortunately, Vince would never go for this. Still, can you imagine a Samoa Joe hot tag? It might be better than Luchasaurus. Heavy Machinery is in the locker room when a random guy walks in and serves Otis with a lawsuit. Miz and Morrison are claiming destruction of personal property, creating an unsafe working environment, Money in the Bank negligence, and violating the Dirt Sheets press freedoms under the First Amendment. Otis can either forfeit his Money in the Bank contract, or they'll see him in court. He has a week to decide. The security guard who helped Sheamus attack Big E the other week tells the Celtic Warrior that his car is being towed. When he gets to the garage, Big E is dressed as a parking attendant and sends Sheamus running. Then he turns his attention to the traitorous security guard and slams him through a car windshield. He stuffs the guard in the trunk and threatens more before Adam Pearce arrives and tells Big E to go home. This version of Big E definitely comes across as a badass, but he looks kinda dumb getting his revenge on the security guard while letting Sheamus get away. Paul Heyman joins Roman Reigns in the ring, but Roman wants to do the talking this time. After getting criticized for leaving his cousin hanging last week, he came out first this time so there's no confusion. He declares that this is his yard, his island, his ring, and his WWE. And if anyone wants it, they can come try and take it from him. In our main event, Roman and Jey Uso take on Sheamus and King Corbin in a Samoan street fight. Side note, how much do you want to bet a few of the guys carrying Corbin's caravan have also served as both Tozawa's ninjas and members of Retribution at some point? Immediately, King Corbin gets a steel chair involved, throwing it at Roman's face, but it gets turned around on him and slammed into his back. Jey is taken out, so the heels double-team Reigns, sending him into the commentary desk. Just when Jey gets back into the fight, he gets double powerbombed through a table. Next, Roman launches a big leather chair at Corbin's face, taking him out. Sheamus tries to put Roman through the announcer's table, but gets reversed into a Samoan drop. However, the table doesn't break. Then, on the outside, Roman spears Sheamus through the barricades, taking him out of the match. Jey tries to dive onto Corbin, but gets thrown into the Timekeeper's area, where he grabs, of all things, the Universal Championship. He clocks Corbin in the face, stunning him, and allowing Reigns to hit the spear. But he has to get immediately out of the way as Uso hits the splash, and this time he makes the cover to pick up the victory for the Samoans. Jey celebrates, and fakes like he's going to hold up Roman's title belt, but laughs and throws it to Reigns instead. After giving it a second, Reigns smirks and hugs his cousin. It's all smiles until Jey gets up to the top of the ramp, and then Roman's face turns from a smile into a scowl as we fade to black. Okay, so first of all, did you know Dave Meltzer has finally given out his first 5-star rating since the start of the pandemic? It went to none other than the parking lot fight between Best Friends and Proud and Powerful. I mean, I loved it because I'm an old school ECW fan of hardcore wrestling, but I thought it would have been too violent and bloody for mainstream fans, so I was pleasantly surprised with how universally praised it's been. With that said, tonight's main event couldn't hold a candle to that match. It was good, don't get me wrong, but in comparison, it failed. However, as a build-up to Clash of Champions, it was fantastic. This felt like a go-home show, and got me super pumped for the pay-per-view. I'm very intrigued by the Alexa Bliss and Otis angles, although I don't trust WWE to handle either storyline correctly. Babyface Sasha isn't convincing yet, but Psychotic Bayley sure is, so I'm loving that character. And Badass Roman is awesome. Surprisingly, I'm most excited for his match against Jey Uso. The only area I have genuine concern about is the tag team division. It's down to another makeshift Cesaro team versus a crumbling Lucha House Party. Raw and NXT aren't much better, having mid-card level champions and seemingly no competition for them. With the insane tag team wrestling going on over in rival AEW, that's simply not sustainable. If I'm going to criticize AEW's women's division, I have to criticize WWE's tag division equally. Still, it was a great show overall, which has become the norm with SmackDown. Now if only Raw could get better. Well, that will do it for another episode of SmackDown. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I'll be back on Tuesday with an action figure review of Raw, so stay tuned for that. As always, if you found me and enjoy my content, make sure you do all that normal YouTube stuff. Smash the like button, share with any wrestling or action figure fans you may know, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. You can also talk to me over on Twitter, at PSUOptimus, or see all my best figure photography on Instagram, at WrestlingOptimus. And if you haven't watched my AEW Dynamite review yet, you can check that out right here. But until next time, I've been Wrestling Optimus, and I'll catch you later.